Hey, fellow Restopians, welcome back to Restopia. I'm really excited about making this video today. I am running late for work today, so it might be a bit of a ramble, but I did want to record this now and get it out today because I'm so excited about it. Now, I quite like Tudors. The bracelet that comes with some of them, as he reaches over, the bracelet that comes with some of them, the fake rivet bracelet that comes with the some of the Tudors, so the black bays, Tudor black bays, yeah, with the black bays. It doesn't fit my wrist because it doesn't have enough micro adjust. It kind of seems to be missing 2.5 mil. I won't go into that too much, but yeah, I can't get it to fit. It's either too tight, too loose. And that is partially because of these fake rivets, because they it cannot go into the case anymore because it will fail on that fake rivet there. So I don't like the fake rivets anyway, visually, and also because they seem to be responsible for it not fitting me. I'm sure they could have designed that out to give the extra 2.5 mil of micro adjustment, but they haven't, and it doesn't. So I tend to, if I've got a black bay, I tend to wear it on a fitted rubber strap. So I looked into those, and I now have all three, as far as I'm aware. And I started this journey quite a while ago, so maybe there are other options now that I'm unaware. Maybe some of the information in this video is not currently the case. But I'll give it to you as it's been, as I found it on my journey. So here we have a Tudor Black Bay Chrono in black and silver on my new rubber B strap, fitted rubber strap with a Tudor deployant clasp. This one is black. For certain models, Rubber B have a 2-piece strap. They do solid straps as well, but I don't think you can get any for the Tudors. And when it's 2 pieces, they can obviously make those 2 pieces in different colours. And I think that looks really good on this watch. I'm very, very, very pleased with it. Not only is it two tones, so it's got the bits of red on that I think go really well, rather than just a plain black one, which is here. But what was that? What was I going to say? Oh yes, the actual face of the black, the actual black part, it has a texture to it. I don't know if you can see that on camera. It's probably glistening in the sun, so it's a good job I did this in the morning. I absolutely love it. I think it suits this watch really well. I'm not a massive fan of this watch. Chronographs, not really my thing. Tachometer bezels, not really my thing. Aluminium bezels, not really my thing. But yeah, I think it's a nice looking watch. But I think this strap makes it. I absolutely love it. Thank you, Rubber B. So, but yeah, this journey didn't start with this watch, and it didn't start with Rubber B. It started with so as I was saying, I think I've got all 3 brands here. So that being Everest, Vanguard, and Rubber B. So this is the black version of this one. Now, I looked into all 3. I kind of felt that Everest was the premium one. I at that point was happy with a Tang buckle, which I'm now not. I just it has to be deployed. Everything has to be fitted, either bracelet, via obviously the end links, or a fitted rubber or leather. You can get fitted leather as well. I really don't like the gap that's there if it's a straight bar strap thing. Anyway, so that's I think these look gorgeous. But it has to be deployant for me now, because it's, you undo it and it's not going to fall on the floor. You put it on, once it's over your wrist, it's not going to fall on the floor, which I just feel worried about with a Tang buckle. They're just a fiddle. I mean, it's so much easier to take a deployant on and off. But back to the straps, because this video really is trying to hopefully help people to decide which one is best for them. Now, I haven't looked at current prices for these two, because if you're interested, you can do that and you can make that decision whether the price point is worth it for you. I obviously know the current price of this one because I've just bought it, or this one, as I've just bought it. They weren't cheap. I mean, I say they're not cheap in comparison to a Tudor official. If they were an official Tudor strap, then they would cost even more. So, maybe maybe they're not too bad, the cost in comparison to the watch. I think for what it's done for this one, and I actually purchased this, I couldn't get it on the bracelet. That isn't the bracelet from this watch. I had to get it on the what would it have been? It was a fabric strap, which obviously meant it was cheaper, which was quite good. And I already had that from a different watch, so it kind of worked. But yeah, so I love it. I think this is now, it's just made this watch for me absolutely fantastic. And I've said that about 3 times now. So I've never really worn this. Well, I have worn this bracelet because it's all scratched up, but I've never really enjoyed wearing it. I've only put it on a small amount of times. So this was my first one. This was the Everest that I purchased, thinking it would be the premium version of the other two. Only comes on, there's no deployant. You cannot use the Tudor. So it comes with a tongue buckle, as you can see here. Only comes, because it's quite nice. If you're going to wear it on the buckle, it's quite nice because it's a nice chunky buckle and pin buckle. And that means it's got nice square chunky holes to put that into. But that means you cannot put the deployant clasp, the Tudor deployant clasp on there. And I think, that's obviously not a Tudor part. And I think when you purchase the Tudor deployant clasp to go with the watch, it just makes it for me. So that was an important thing. Then I tried, because I wanted a deployant, I tried the Vanguard, which does work with the deployant, but has some issues. And that led me to try the Rubber B. One of the reasons I did want to try it initially was because of the colour options. Now, what I will say with all three is that it's how they fit your wrist. And I can only really tell you how they fit my wrist and how I think they might fit other people's wrists. But do bear that in mind. As you can see, the way I've laid them out, they're very different lengths. Hopefully I can cover all this. I think this is going to be a bit of a ramble, but I just want to get everything in. If you're interested in going down this route for a Tudor or other watches, because they do, all three brands make straps, fitted rubber straps for other watches. It does vary which watches they make fitted rubber straps for. It varies what type of strap they make for that brand and that model. But they do have to be model specific so that they fit the case perfectly. And as I sort of touched on, they all have different color options. So that's something that's worth looking at, as is price. But I won't go into any of that. You can check that out for yourself. So I ruled I'll give you some plus points for them, and then we'll just talk about them generally. The Everest. So the Everest fits, from memory, and it's been a while since I've had this on a watch, that came on and off the watch very well. I found, because although it looks long, I actually found that because it was a pin buckle, I was using it on the second to last one, from memory, which didn't leave much of the end to tuck in, and it was a bit awkward when ends don't tuck in properly. And you'll notice that there's only one cuff on this one. They all come with two, but I've taken the cuffs off of these two because of how they fit me. Now, bear in mind, although this Vanguard here has a pin buckle on, I've never used it on a pin buckle, and I had the deployant on, as I have here on the Rubber B. But basically what happens is, when you're using on a deployant, it doesn't matter the length. You kind of want it as short as possible, because you could have it on the last one, and what have I got this on? This is on the third one. You can have it on the second or third one or last one, or first or second one, let's say, and it still wouldn't matter. I'm going to quickly, this is going to be a long video, so I'll quickly show you what that is. Really easy to change position. So let's put it to that second to last position. Where's it gone? Is it that one? Yeah, bear with me, pop it in there. Oh, there's so much to say about these. They look very similar, but they are so different. So that is there, and that obviously you wouldn't use that cuff. Looking at it, and this is why I started to change position of it for you, I don't think it would work on the end one. If it was on the last one, then when you close it, yeah, I mean, that doesn't look great, does it? Having that little tiny bit not really sticking in there very much. So you would need to have it on the second or third one. Luckily it fit. I think it fits me. I think those two, second and third positions, are the best. Obviously if you had it way up there, then when that tucks in, there's going to be way too much showing. You definitely need the second cuff, and look, how close that is. It just, you would end up having to cut that, and that's going to be potentially an issue. Now I have access to a tool that can cut that completely straight, but it still wouldn't have that curve on it. And this is going to be an issue with them, so you do have to kind of consider how it fits your wrist. My wrist is almost 7.5 inch, and I can only really give how I find these three in terms of fitment. So because of how this one is, I actually took the second cuff off, but now I've put it back on because I need it to hold that down. There are a couple of things I think could be better on this one. This one, not the watch. This one on the rubber bead, but I'll come to those in a minute. I'll try and just shoot through these pluses and minuses. So fitting the Everest on the watch, I think from memory was pretty good. I will come back to those spring bars in a bit. It's a bit short, so because you have to use it on the pin buckle, I ended up with a 7.5 inch nearly wrist, being right near the end, and that leaves an awkward amount of that showing, which I wasn't too happy about. Now, interestingly, at the time on the Everest website, they showed this on a wrist, but it was on a woman's wrist. It was clearly a female's wrist, and she having a smaller wrist, and it didn't even fit her very well on the. It was a weird picture. She had it like done up much tighter. But I think realistically, it's going to be a guy buying this. I mean, he may have a smaller wrist than me, but it certainly wouldn't have had. If you've got, I mean, if I had a bigger wrist than 7.5 inches, even a full 7.5 or more, I don't think this would fit very well, to be honest. So that's a negative for that, as well as obviously the no deployment option. So I kind of did away with that, moved on to Vanguard, because out of these two, I thought, oh, this one looks good. I'll get the Vanguard because it takes it was cheaper. This is £250 plus £30 postage. So not cheap. And it doesn't come with a buckle. The buckle is about another £40, I'm going to say, 40 something pounds more for the buckle. But obviously, if you're going to put it on a deployment, you don't need the buckle. So, yeah, so £250. These are well under, I think these are about 150. I think that was 180 when I got it. This was, the Vanguard is about 160, I'm going to say. I think it was slightly cheaper than the Everest. And I think there was an offer that I got. I can't really remember. Whilst I'm mentioning Vanguard, this is the box that the Vanguards come in. Nice little magnetic catch box. The others come in. The package is not important, is it? But I had that out, so I thought I'd show you. It's quite a nice box to have. So I got the Vanguard and was fairly happy with the Vanguard. When I first got it and put it on a watch, I was very happy, to be honest. And what are the pros and cons of the Vanguard? Right, so it's nice and thick. I did measure it with I think it's about 3 mil thick. It's a similar thickness. It's not quite, it's thicker than the Everest, but they're, much of a muchness really. Now, one of the downsides to the Rubber B is that it's quite thin. I don't know if you can see that. It's about 2.3 mil, 2.4 mil. But I'm measuring that at the point, this point here. Let's just quickly turn them all over. Oh, you can see I've worn that quite a bit. Turn them all over. Like the Everest, this is very plain strap. Isn't a problem for me. I've measured it at this point. I've measured it at the point that they've all got the same sort of ridge section that sort of simulates or replicates rather the male end link on a bracelet. It's female end link. Yeah, I've measured it at that point but I think measuring's unimportant. It's the fact that it is significantly thinner. That is one of the negatives, I think, to the Rubber B. One of only 2 negatives to the Rubber B. But it is what it is. I think they could have, I can see why they've done that to a degree. I think they could have, there could have been a way around that. Well, I'll tell you, I won't leave things. I think the reason that they've done that, and this really is turning into a ramble now. So one of the negatives on the Vanguard is that when you put the deployant clasp in, the pin that goes in there is much smaller than that hole. What that means is that it's not a problem. The watch doesn't fall off your wrist. I didn't find it a problem at all during ownership or wearing, and I feel it could be easily helped with a small rubber O-ring that would just pad out the pin to fit more snugly. But what happens with this one is when you take it off, it tends to move down a hole. So that means when you put it back on, you've got to put it back to the hole that you want to wear it at. Isn't a problem because you quickly work out how many of the extra holes need to be showing, and you just put it to that position and do it up. It's still quicker to put on than a pin buckle, in my opinion and experience. Now, the Rubber B has much smaller holes as you can see here. Now, I haven't got the Rubber B pin buckle, but I'm imagining, that's not going to look anywhere near as nice as these two. It's going to be even narrower. It's going to be a round tang, isn't it? Pin. It's actually going to be a pin-shaped pin. So I think that would look awful. But the plus side is, and I'll show you what is actually inside a Tudor deployant clasp, if you didn't see it last time, is that. So the little pin with a bobble on the end, and that pops in very nicely and sticks out the other side of the Rubber B. Now, that's really why this is that thin, I think, because if it was any thicker, that wouldn't work like that. As this is 2-piece, I don't see why they couldn't have made it thicker and the outside piece been, it would affect the colour split, I guess. Or could they have, what's the word? Could they have enlarged the internal part so that when it popped through, it did have something to pop into, but was covered by the rubber being thicker? I think that would be a better option. But some people might like the fact that it's thinner. They might like that it's more leather thickness rather than rubber thickness. That's personal choice, isn't it? But that, I think, was the negative. Oh, I'll tell you, I'm just going all over the place here with my notes. So the fact that it's quite thin is a negative for me. I also think that, we'll look at these ones we'll go back to these ones on here. Now this has 8 holes and these both have 9, I believe. You'll notice that although this has more holes, I don't know, right? Let's have a look. Yeah, although this, it has more holes, so it would be what I think with the Rubber B is that there could be more holes there, but my main thing is I think they should be closer together, because these holes are smaller. The fact, if they were closer together, that would be less structurally unsound than if they're bigger holes. I suppose it is a thinner strap, but I think it would be nice if they were nearer together, because that would then give you more fitment options, wouldn't it? When you're popping the deployant on, you can get some deployants that don't use the pin holes at all. They are the ideal ones to have. I don't think you can get any aftermarket ones like that, but you can get them with watches, and that gives you an infinite area to close the clasp on. But when you're using a pin buckle type deployant, if that makes sense, you're limited. Your fit is limited to the spacing between the holes. Now, if those holes were nearer together, which I think they could have been, then that would obviously be better. But it's fine for me. I'm happy with that fit. So that's not a problem. So that's kind of where I got to. Where was I? So I had the rubber bee. Interestingly, the black rubber bee doesn't look as black. The black Vanguard doesn't look as black as the rubber bee. I don't know if that's because that one's been worn the most. These two haven't been. That's been worn the most. That's been worn. That's Mama Bear in wear. And this is the one only started to, well, that's brand new, actually. That's never been worn. But this one, I only wore it yesterday. And there's a couple of other points I want to cover. But before I do that, I'm just going to go through the plus point, minus points again. I've done the Everest. So this, I quite like that it's thick for me. I prefer that, but that's personal choice. I've covered the holes being a bit too big and they slip, but there is a fix for that, which I never got around to do. And I won't need to, because now I've moved on to rubber bee. The fitting, I'm going to cover that. The fitting and the postage. The fitting's the big thing for me, which I'll cover next. I'm just going to make sure that I've covered everything else. Yeah, I've covered everything else. So now we're going to talk about the main reason that I went from the Vanguard and what I don't like about it and moved on to the rubber bee. Now, in swapping the watches, and there's one more negative to the rubber bee, which I'll cover in the same at the same time. In swapping the watches, I noticed that the spring bar that comes with the Vanguard, excuse all the mank on there, the spring bar, let's mank it, I'll show you that one. The spring bar that comes with the Vanguard, is bent. I don't know if you can see that in the video, but it's actually got a bend in it. I was going to try and pull it out for this video, but then I thought, you're just going to have to trust me. You can see that it's bent when you look at it. And I thought to myself, when I was swapping them around in the past, I thought, has that happened by me wearing it? Which would be a bit odd. But then I realised it hasn't. That's how they are. Now, I actually have another one here, a blue one. And they're all, if you look at them, you can see that they're bent. And when I took it out, then you can definitely see that it's bent. It's actually got a bend in. And I think they've just literally got a spring bar. Well, they would have done it. Would have got a spring bar and bent it. But the bends aren't uniform. It's not like it's been in a machine. It's like someone's kind of sort of done it. And it messes with my OCD. So that means that the end is not going into the hole in the lug straight. It's going in at a slight angle. But more importantly, what that means is, well, these are a pain to get out. That's actually, because that's not straight, it's wedged against the rubber, and they're quite hard to get in and out if you should need to. But if you did need to change that spring bar, so basically you cannot put a Tudor spring bar in this strap. So if I took that out, put a Tudor spring bar in, you cannot then fit this strap to a Tudor, because it needs to have that slight angle so that it fits. And I'm wondering if that was an afterthought. Did they make these and then think they had the mold and they thought, damn, it doesn't fit the watch. What we're going to do? And then someone thought, I know, well, bend the spring bar. Problem solved. I can't think that there's any reason. I did wonder if it I just can't think there's any reason to bend a spring bar that goes in the end of a strap. So that to me was like really, that's what made me try the Rubber B. Now, I did want to try it because of the red. I think these are the only manufacturer that do a two-piece, two-coloured strap. But it was this thing with the spring bar, because these are incredibly painful to change on a Tudor. And I just didn't like it all being bent. It messed with my OCD. Now, on the Rubber B, you can just use, it doesn't come with any spring bars. You just use your Tudor spring bar as on here. And I have, as you may have seen in a previous video, I've got a Tudor specific spring bar tool pliers. Now, I've got to say, I can't remember how easy this was to fit. I didn't have the pliers then. I don't remember it being a pain. And to be honest, I don't actually know, I haven't checked for this video, whether these spring bars in here are Tudor ones that have come out of a Tudor, or if they would either be Tudor ones or they would be ones that come with the Everest. I'm not sure. But the important thing here is that these do slide in and out. So there's no issues, as they do with the Rubber B. And Tudor cases, as you may know, Tudor lugs. I don't know why I'm taking that off for. That's not going to help, is it? On the bracelets, it's a very narrow slot that you have to get the spring bar tool in. Now, these work amazingly well. Taking the old bracelet off, there you go, you can see how thin that slot is. So a normal spring bar would not fit in there. But these do, and they work amazingly well. You literally push it in, squeeze together. You're going to have no damage to the lugs of the watch, and putting one of these back on, as I did yesterday morning, is a doddle. So basically, I can change these Rubber B straps with this tool amazingly easily, with no worried of scratching the watch. So that means I can swap around if I want to. This one, the Rubber B, the Vanguard, a complete pain to get on and off. It's kind of a fit and forget, and my OCD just couldn't cope with the fact that the spring bars are bent. But yeah, if you put a straight spring bar in there, you just cannot get it into the watch. You cannot push it in hard enough to get it to locate in the hole in the lug. And even if you did, you've then got a tremendous force pulling on that spring bar, and it may just pop out. Whereas taking the original bracelet off and putting the Rubber B on, even if you didn't have a specific tool, would be much easier. I mean, it literally I just held the spring bar, pushed it in, let go, and you almost heard it instantly just click into the holes. On one of the, obviously there's 4 holes. On one, I did have to sort of manipulate it a bit, and then I heard it pop in. But I think one of the spring bars on here, it tends to stick. And that's another reason you don't really want to be stuck with an aftermarket spring bar. I'd much rather use the spring bar that comes with the watch. So I'm very, very happy with the Rubber B. Now, 2 other points, because this video really has dragged on. 2 other points I did want to mention. Shipping. Another thing I really don't like about Vanguard is that they used, I'm in the UK, they use DHL. There's no option to prepay the import tax. So when this arrived, DHL wanted to charge me £35. And in fact, they did charge me £35. So I had to pay £35 more to get, it didn't happen with the first one. That didn't happen when I ordered the first one, which is this black one. I then ordered the red and the blue. I won't go into, I didn't end up losing out, but I won't tell you why. But when I bought these, I had to give the DHL guy £35 on the doorstep. So it's really, really, really a poor show that, and I've had things from China before, you know, with AliExpress, you get the option to prepay the import tax. There's no option to do that with Vanguard. And then you're stuffed with DHL, which I don't think are a great company. DPD, on the other hand, fantastic, but they don't do international as far as I'm aware. you're stuck with paying potentially you're going to be clobbered for £35 import tax, customs tax. I think it's a customs thing. Whereas the Rubber Bee came from it was delivered by UPS. It came within 2 days. I ordered one afternoon. It came the following day, not the following day, the day after the following day, so 2 days later. So less than 48 hours later, they were here. And there was there's no mention of any extra fees from UPS. So I'm assuming that Rubber Bee have sorted it out. It probably says in their terms and conditions, but there was no option to if there'd have been an option to prepay, £10 or £20 on the Vanguard, I would have done it, because that would have saved me having to actually pay 35, because DHL are going to obviously make it's a scam with DHL. They if you Google it, they do it to loads of people. It's a real scam. I really don't like DHL, but that's personal, my personal feelings. Now, there's one more thing. I mentioned that the holes, the only two negatives I can find on the Rubber Bee is that I think the holes could be closer together. The other thing is you'll notice I've laid them out here to show you the difference in lengths, and I've kind of mentioned fit, and you might have to cut if there's a lot of end strap sticking out. But the thing that you must have noticed really early on is that the bottom strap on the Rubber Bee is a lot shorter than the other two. Let's take the Everest out of the equation, because you can't put a pin buckle on, a deployment clasp on that. Although, so let's compare these two. Now, overall, there isn't really any difference. I mean, it's weird, because when you look at it, this doesn't look, although it is physically longer than this one, the actual, where the holes are actually probably a little bit, well, there's probably no difference or whatever. But the downside to this being shorter is that that's where you put, it's the bottom one that you put the, so that's this one, that you attach these, the safety clasp end of the deployant to. And when you do it up, and it's a particular pain on this one because it's two colours, when you do it up, it means that whatever strap you've got left is nearer to the head of the watch. And on this one, what that means is when you look down, you see that red, and I'd rather not see that red. I'd rather that the red you see is on the side. It's not too bad. I'm getting used to it, and that's why that's one of the reasons I had to put the second cuff back on. Now, if that had been that length, then the deployant, where am I going? The deployant would be further round. Where is it on my wrist? It would be nearer the middle on me. And I know this is probably, specific to people's, wrist, but it would be nearer the middle for me, and therefore that would be further away. So instead of seeing it at that point, when I look at the watch, I'm less likely to see that, basically. It's a difference. It's not a big deal for me. The Rubber Bee is by far, I wish I'd gone for Rubber Bee the first time. I think the narrowness would have put me off. But without trying all three, I couldn't have formulated the opinions that I have now. This is easily the longest video I've ever done. Hopefully you've either stopped watching it because it's boring and not of any interest to you, or you've continued to watch it because you're thinking about purchasing one of these, and it's been useful. I thoroughly recommend having a Tudor on a rubber fitted deployant strap with the Tudor deployant clasp. It's quite an expensive exercise with Rubber Bee, and the Tudor clasp isn't cheap either. It's about the same cost as the strap, but it does give it's kind of the same cost as if everything was Tudor. So it is what it is, but it does give an extremely nice look to the watch, I feel. And obviously my recommendation is go straight to Rubber Bee. But anyway, if you found this video useful, please like and subscribe. Second time I've done that. It's nice getting new subscribers, but mainly if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of them, or just hear your thoughts on stuff that I've said. I've probably got a couple of things wrong. So let me know. The interaction is good. I think I've covered everything. I think that's all I wanted to say. It took about 15 minutes more than I knew it would be more than 20 minutes. It took about 10 minutes more than I was hoping, but it is what it is. Well, have a nice day, everyone. One wrist, live it.